KIDK Eyewitness News 3 continues.
Angie Dodge, one of the biggest murder cases to ever come out of Bonneville County. We have followed this story for years. Christopher Tapp has always been in the spotlight of this story after being accused and convicted for her death back in 1996. And now, more than 20 years later, evidence may put her actual killer on trial.
My name is Carol Dodge, and I am the mother of Angie Dodge, who was brutally murdered in June of 1996. And for 23 years, I've traveled every road there is to find justice for my daughter.
When her daughter Angie was first murdered, Carol Dodge thought the killer would be brought to justice quickly. Idaho Falls police had his DNA, a pristine sample, says DNA expert Greg Hampikian.
It's a single profile, complete identification, one man to the exclusion of everyone on the planet.
But for nearly 2 decades, police couldn't find a match to the DNA, not even in the criminal database. So in 2014, Carol Dodge pushed then case detective Patrick McKenna to do something very controversial: search public DNA databases in search of the killer or anyone related to him.
My whole purpose is to find who killed Angie Dodge.
Detectives searched a small database owned by Ancestry.com, which used to be public, and got a hit.
It led us to this Michael Usry Jr., who just happened to be a filmmaker.
Michael Usry was living in New Orleans, Louisiana, trying to break into the film industry.
And I shoved her body over in the shower and just kept stabbing her.
With this short film called Murderabilia.
Murderabilia got me the reputation of being a person who is really into murder and things like that.
Police picked Usry up for questioning and collected his DNA.
They finally had to look at me and go, no, we think that you, Michael Usry, we think that you're involved in this murder case.
Usry turned out not to be the killer, but in the end, the man who did match the DNA was actually a distant relative Usry didn't even know existed. A man who, in 1996, was living just across the street from Angie Dodge.
Anne-Marie Green from 48 Hours joins us now as we get a glimpse at the episode coming up this Saturday night at 9 o'clock. Tapp wasn't the only man to come under scrutiny in the eyes of the law. Anne-Marie, why did police also think Michael Usry, a man named Michael Usry, was Angie Dodge's killer?
Todd, it is a fascinating case, and I'm so happy to be talking to you because this is your case. It's in your backyard. So Michael Usry was sort of the unfortunate victim of a new type of investigative tool, familial DNA. We have heard about familial DNA in some high-profile cases like the Golden State Killer and stuff like that more recently, but back in 2014, it was a brand new thing, and investigators in Idaho Falls had already tested the DNA found at the crime scene in the criminal database. They didn't get a hit, and so they started to wonder about these new-fangled databases that were popping up, these commercial databases like Ancestry.com and 23andMe, and they submitted the DNA to a small database that Ancestry.com had acquired, and they got a hit. They got a hit to a family member. It turns out that it was Michael Usry's father, who had never submitted his DNA to Ancestry.com, but he did submit his DNA to a database for research connected to his church. When investigators got a partial hit on Dad's database, Usry Sr., they realized he was too old to be a participant in this murder, and so they looked for the next male relative that could be in the right age range. And there you go, Michael Usry. He had some friends in the Idaho Falls area, and he made movies about murder.
Do police still access DNA profiles through Ancestry.com?
Listen, I have my DNA uploaded to Ancestry.com, so it was certainly a question that I had as well. And this is what Ancestry said. They said they do not hand over anything to law enforcement unless they are compelled to by a court order or a subpoena. In the case of Michael Usry, it was a really unique sort of moment and a unique case. This small database that Ancestry had acquired at the time it was public. After they found out what had happened and what had happened to Michael, they made it private. So now no one can access it, not law enforcement, not anyone else.
Okay, that takes us to recent events. A man by the name of Brian Dripps is now accused. DNA evidence has linked him at this point to the case, at least. He is accused. Why did it take so long for investigators to find Brian Dripps, especially when he lived right across the street at the time the crime was committed?
Yeah, 20 odd years go by, and I think it's just a case of just basic police work. At the time, investigators were really focused on people that Angie hung out with, friends or acquaintances, and so they asked a lot of the men that were in her circle for their DNA, and most people gave it up willingly. The thing with Dripps is he lived across the street. She had really just moved in, so she didn't really know her neighbors all that well. He was married, he was much older, and though he was questioned by police, they really didn't think that he had had any interaction with her. And then he moves away. He moves away for years, and so they really didn't get around to him until much, much later. And you rightfully point out that he has pleaded not guilty to this, and he has a court case coming up in June of 2021.
Okay, Anne-Marie Green, 48 Hours. We thank you for being here with us once again.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, make sure to tune in tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on KIDK Eyewitness News 3 as 48 Hours unveils the twisted case of Angie Dodge.